Welcome back to Quilt Museum TV from the National Quilt Museum. We're going to start out this episode by going to our curator, Rachel Barr, who's going to tell us about the Cherrywood Challenge Van Gogh exhibit, which is at the museum till the end of the month.
Hello, my name is Rachel Barr and I'm the curator here at the National Quilt Museum. The Van Gogh Cherrywood Challenge Traveling Exhibition is currently at the National Quilt Museum. There were over 460 submissions. More than 47 states were included, were represented, also 4 countries. Cherrywood Fabrics decided then to create 2 traveling exhibitions. One was the French, which was a larger exhibit, and then the Dutch, which is what is here now at the National Quilt Museum, and it has 80 quilts. Cherrywood Fabrics not only makes distinctive, suede-like, solid, hand-dyed fabrics, they also sponsor unique quilt challenges. For 2017, it was Van Gogh. Artists then were inspired by the life and work of one of the world's most beloved artists. They each kind of created their own small masterpiece based on some aspect maybe of his work or of his life. All the quilts are 20 inches by 20 inches. They use the Van Gogh black and blue Cherrywood fabrics. They could be accent fabrics, but those are also part of the Cherrywood fabric family of materials. All hand-dyed, suede-like material. The artists then could use embellishments, or they could manipulate or kind of rework the fabric as long as it kept the same texture and the integrity of the Cherrywood brand. I think some of the artists also had some fun with the name of Van Gogh. One of the quilts that you may see here is "Where Did My Van Go?" as titled of their quilt, or another one was "My Van Won't Go." We also had a few more serious titles for quilts. One was Van Gogh Dog. And on that quilt, you will really be able to see those strong brush strokes, but made with fabric that Van Gogh was certainly famous for. Don't miss your opportunity to see Van Gogh Cherrywood Challenge Traveling Exhibition here at the National Quilt Museum until August the 8th. Thank you.
The museum is also currently featuring the exhibit Fly Me to the Moon, an exhibit that is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first moonwalk. Exhibit curator Suzanne Jones and 2 of the artists that are in the exhibit came to the museum a few weeks ago and gave us more information about their quilts. Let's go to those interviews.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Jones. I'm at the National Quilt Museum in Paducah, Kentucky, and I'm just so thrilled with this space. Fly Me to the Moon is an exhibit that I created, or curated. I didn't create it. Artists from 8 countries created 179 quilts in the exhibit, and we have 44 of them here. And I'm just really thrilled to see it shown in such a beautiful space. In 2014, my husband and I were watching the news, and it was the 45th anniversary of the moonwalk. And I have some friends that have curated exhibits, and I said, oh, that would be the coolest collection. You know, you could do the astronauts and the missions and the Native American moons and idioms and songs, and it would just be so cool. And my husband said, you should do that. And I said, nobody knows who I am. I don't have those kind of quilts. Where would I get it? I can't do that. He said, yes, you can. He's always been my biggest encourager. So I sat down and just started kind of doodling, and in about 30 minutes I had the whole exhibit kind of planned out. And I wrote to Schiffer Publishing and said, I have an idea for a book of quilts. And then I got the little letter that says, thanks so much for playing, you know, we're interested, we'll let you know what we decide. And when I didn't hear from them, I contacted them and I said, you know, I understand I'm an unknown quantity, but if you're not interested, just tell me. And they said, what? Yes, we're interested. So I had a contract in the mail, and then when I signed it, I said, uh-oh, I don't have any quilts. What am I going to do now? I just promised them 90 to 130 quilts. And so through the magic of social media, I met people like Margaret and Kay and all of the people that submitted quilts to this exhibit, and they trusted me. I don't know why they trusted me. They didn't know me from Adam, but they trusted me with their exhibit, and it's just been such a wonderful ride. This is just such a thrill to have the quilts hanging at the National Quilt Museum. They've also been to NASA. There was an exhibit at the Library of Congress about the book, Fly Me to the Moon, that goes with the exhibit, which was just a thrill because I grew up in Washington, D.C., and to have the Library of Congress honor your book like that was just more than I could imagine. I sat in the Mission Control Director's chair at, in the historic area at NASA where nobody else goes there. They let me go in there and sit. I've had the chalice that went to the moon in my hand because of this exhibit and because the artists trusted me to do things with their quilts. And I'm just so proud of every single one of the artists and their pieces, and they feel like they're my children. When they come home, I pet them, I check them to make sure the sleeves are still on and there's nothing that happened to them while they were out of my sight. And so far, everybody's taken just beautiful care of them, and I'm just so proud. And I hope that everybody that comes to the Quilt Museum while they're here will enjoy them as much as we have. This is my quilt, Moon Mullins Living the High Life. Maybe you don't remember, but Moon Mullins was a comic strip that was in the papers from 1923 to 1991. It had a long run. And the reason it was important to me was that my mother was a Mullins. And so Moon Mullins being in the paper was always a fun kind of thing. As a matter of fact, it became so fun that my uncle, Henry Clifford Mullins, who's a doctor, nobody knows who he is except by the name Moon. Everybody calls him Moon. And so when this challenge came up and I began to think what I would do, I decided I wanted to make a Moon Mullins quilt, basically because of him. And when this exhibit ends, this will go to him. And this is Moon Mullins, and he was a prize fighter that never really went anywhere with that. He was pretty lazy, but he always had a get-rich-quick scheme kind of thing going. And he liked his booze. So he has gone to the moon, and he's finally living the high life, and he's turned the lunar landing into a still. And he is just sitting there going, this is gonna be great. Pretty soon, I'm gonna have more whiskey than I can handle and nobody to share it with. Of course, he doesn't realize that they're the little Swarovski crystals of moonshine and they're going out into space and he's not getting a drop. I'd love to encourage everyone to come to the National Quilt Museum this summer to see Fly Me to the Moon, because this isn't about me. This is about the moon, and it's mostly about my artists. I just want them to shine as brightly as the moon shines down from the heavens, and I'd love for you to meet two of them right now. Come here. This is Margaret Williams from Tucker, Georgia. She's been in all three of my exhibits. And this is Kay Campbell, and she lives in Maryland. And they came to be with us today and to see their work here, and we're going to get a chance to hear about their pieces in a minute.
Okay. I'm Margaret Williams. I'm from Tucker, Georgia. Actually, I'm from Paducah. I grew up here. I was born and raised in Paducah, but I've been living in the Atlanta area for about 34 years. This quilt of Ed White I did because, well, first of all, Suzanne needed quilts for all of the Apollo astronauts. And when I was looking through his little biography, I realized that we were both members of the same little honorary engineering society. And that was just a little thing, but it gave me sort of a connection with him. And after I started, you know, reading about him, and there's a video online. Before he was in the Apollo program, he was the first American, actually the first human, to do an EVA, to walk outside of a spacecraft, which to me would be the most frightening thing in the world, but he was so in the moment and loved it. There's a video of him actually doing it, a NASA video, and he's narrating it. And he was just the perfect person at the right place in the right time. He loved every minute of it. And when they asked him to come back inside, he said, "I'll come back in, but it's the saddest moment of my life." And he had, I mean, this was the first time anybody went out of an aircraft, and he had, I don't know if you can see in here, but there's basically his manned maneuvering unit was 3 little cans of compressed air, which ran out in like the first 2 minutes of the thing, of the spacewalk. So then he used the cords and things to walk all over the outside of the aircraft. Inside, in this, the way I do my quilts, I use lots of little pieces of other fabrics. There's a lot of things in here that you can see. There's actually a space shuttle. There are, you know, musical notes, artists, animals, all kinds of things. If you look really closely, you can't see it from a distance, but when you walk up and look close at the thing, you can see the different things. And of course, Ed White was one of the astronauts that was killed in the launch pad fire of Apollo. And what an honor it is to have it hanging here in the National Quilt Museum, which is like one of my favorite places in the entire world. I tell everybody to come here. I love this museum. I've been coming since it opened many times a year, and to have one of my pieces here is just a dream come true. I'm so thrilled about it.
My name is Kay Campbell. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, but I've been living in Maryland for about 35 years. And my quilt, Luna the Everlasting and the Ephemeral, is all about the everlasting moon. And I quote the poem, the lyrics from Jimmy Buffett. I love that song. And then the Luna moth, which I've only seen a couple of times in my life. 4 to 5 inches big, lime green, you cannot miss it. But it only lives for a week and then it's gone. But quilts have surrounded me my entire life. My grandma Campbell made me a quilt when I was born. I still have it. And I have a quilt that's a crazy quilt that I slept under all my life, made by my grandma Bird. And she taught me to quilt sitting on her knee at the treadle sewing machine, which I also have. And I look at that when I'm sitting in my office working, and I just take a deep breath and it makes me feel better. But I appreciate being here with all these artists and their work. It was a wonderful challenge, got me thinking, got me trying new techniques, and I appreciate Suzanne Jones for giving me the opportunity. But I have 2 other friends in my quilting bee who also have quilts in the exhibit, and it's really fun to share this moment with them.
We're going to conclude this episode by taking a quick peek into a recent workshop here at the museum led by artist Melinda Bula. If you'd like more information about future workshops, simply go to quiltmuseum.org and click on the icon for workshops. Thank you for watching this month's episode of Quilt Museum TV. We'll see you next month.
Hi, I'm Melinda Bula, and I'm here at the National Quilt Museum, and I'm here teaching for their adult workshop. I have a group of students here, and we're doing one of my patterns, and nothing's more thrilling than watching these girls make their own beautiful flower here, and educating students and the public on what quilting is all about and all the forms of quilting. There's lots of different techniques in the quilting world, and mine is just one of them. And I love to share my abilities and my talent with people and turn them on and inspire them to make their next quilt. And it's really important to me to be able to educate people on all the techniques that are out there, and that's why the museum and their education program is so important, from teaching children in summer camp programs to teaching adults. And it's really important to be involved with the Quilt Museum and their education program and spreading the word about quilting and educating the population on what quilting really is in today's world.